this motion is a factual motion. I believe that's skipped from all of our speeches up to this point, so I'd like to define it as a fact and point out that the proposition team failed to address our expansion of the definition of socialism. So we would like to point that out and say that we, as a whole debate, are now operating under the definition that socialism is a redistribution of wealth and resources through the force of government. All right. So keep this in mind as I go through all of their points and reinforce ours. And if I have time, I'll introduce more points in this debate. All right. The first point that the proposition team brought up is on the level of truth. On a humanitarian level, the State Department gives huge amounts of money to other countries. And this, in fact, is not socialist because, one, it's a choice, and two, the entire proposition team's case is operating under this social paradigm that sharing is socialist. And how can a government mandate be a social paradigm? The fact is, sharing is not socialist, and I will prove that throughout this debate. Please keep this in mind as I address the first point.
I'm sorry, I thought that the judging criteria that you brought up was like ours, except that to be socialist, it had to pay for something. The government is not brought up in your partners.
Yes, it was. All right. Their second point was their second sub-point under the humanitarian heading was charities. And how could freedom of choice be socialist? How could force through government be? How could that contrast with the definition we are now operating under of freedom of choice? They're operating under the assumption that freedom of choice is socialist, and that in fact is wrong. Freedom of choice is what makes capitalism work, and their assertion that giving money to charities and charities giving money to people in need is socialist is completely wrong. All right, second. Their second point falls under the heading of global. And we, as a country, recognize other socialist nations. However, this creates this paradox where if we as a country recognize other socialist nations, and that makes us socialist, we also as a country recognize capitalist nations. Does that make us capitalist? And we would recognize communist nations such as China. Does that make us communist? How can we be communist, capitalist, and socialist all at the same time? And this assertion is wrong, and thus that point has no sway in this debate. Third, their third point falls under the heading of political. Their first subpoint asserts that government interference with capitalism, bailouts, auto industry, and the financial industry, is socialist. However, if we look at a slab of concrete, and we want to judge a slab of concrete based on quality, and this slab of concrete is a very nice slab of concrete, however, there's one chip in this slab of concrete, would we say that this slab of concrete is not a very nice slab of concrete? How can we judge the quality or that validity of a nation based on one singular point in time? We have to look at it throughout its entire history to say whether it's a socialist nation or a capitalist nation or a communist nation. So this point here holds no sway in this debate. The second sub-point under political is incredibly high taxes, and I believe my partner addressed this and said most of these taxes pay for the military. Where if you contrast this with socialist nations that proclaim themselves to be socialist, most of their taxes go to welfare services and social services. Whereas, as I just said, most of our taxes go to military spending. So what they're asserting is that spending on your military is socialist. How can spending on your own protection be socialist? That's a completely contradictory assertion and thus has no weight in this debate. And the third subpoint is they brought up welfare, and the question I have is why is helping your own people socialist? How is giving them just enough money to live socialist? Keep this in mind as I make the point.
Isn't that exactly what the USSR did, and that's how they became socialist?
So the USSR helped its 30 million Ukrainians, people who live in Ukraine, starved to death. Is that what you're saying? No, I think you have a lack of understanding of the way the USSR operated. The fourth point, on a societal level, this whole idea of religion and charity falls under the contradiction of freedom of choice, and I've already addressed this in the debate. Freedom of choice is not inherently socialist; it is in fact inherently capitalist. And this also falls under their fifth point, which addresses the individual level, the sharing, and again religion. All right, moving on to our points. Our first point is we as a nation are known as a capitalist nation. When you ask somebody who's Chinese or somebody who's Canadian, and when they say what type of government, what type of economy is the United States, they will say we're a capitalist nation, and that in itself can judge the character of a nation, is what people say about us. And our second point is on a political level, socialism is used as an insult. If you look at the current healthcare bill, one of the main arguments against it is that it is socialist, and that's why it's falling apart. How can we be a socialist nation if the one most crucial bill in our nation's history thus far is how are we a socialist nation if the thing that's crippling that bill is socialism itself? And I would like to add one final point to this debate, is on a societal level, we as a society don't consider ourselves a socialist nation. This is pivotal, because if you look at nations who are socialists, they will say that they are socialists, and they will proudly say that. However, if you look at our nation, we are not. We are always proud of our capitalist heritage, and this in itself differentiates us between socialist nations. So, Judge, if we refer back to our judging criteria, weight of circumstances, they have absolutely no points in this debate because we refuted them all, and we have 3 strong points in our favor. So, for this reason alone, you should vote for the